Hello, I'm Lyndsey Hookway. I'm a paediatric nurse, health visitor, international board certified lactation consultant and gentle sleep coach. And this short presentation should help you to understand a little bit more about self-soothing. So you may well have spent a lot of time and energy and money lovingly choosing your baby's Moses basket or crib or their nursery furniture, and perhaps you've fed your baby and you've cuddled your baby and they're asleep, and you put them down in their Moses basket and it's all lovely and warm and comfortable, and your baby immediately wakes up, or your baby only sleeps for 5 minutes and then wakes up. Or maybe she just simply won't go in her Moses basket at all and seems to hate it. And why is that the case? Why, if she has been fed and loved and cared for, and if she's tired and sleepy, why will she not stay in her Moses basket? Well, the answer is that self-soothing, in terms of your baby being able to get themselves nice and calm and able to go to sleep on their own, is actually a made-up term, and the real name for this process is self-regulation. And what self-regulation is the ability to get from a state of arousal, so that might be a positive state of arousal, so your baby is very excited that he has learnt to roll or stand up in his cot, or perhaps he's learnt to crawl, and that's why sleep tends to get worse when babies are on the cusp of learning something new. Or it might be a negative state of arousal, such as being scared or stressed or hungry or cold or lonely, or any other need that your baby has. And it's the ability to get from one of those states to a state of calm. And actually, although many people think that putting their babies down awake and drowsy in their bed and their baby going off to sleep by themselves is self-soothing, actually they're not self-soothing, because self-soothing technically is the ability to get very, very calm from a state of not being calm at all. And so actually when babies are calm and they go to sleep, that's not self-soothing. And so if your baby has done that for perhaps since birth, and then they suddenly are not able to do that, it's not that they've lost the skill of self-soothing, it's just that they never had it in the first place. And for whatever reason, your baby used to be calm and settled when they were put down in their bed, and for some reason they're now not. Perhaps they're learning something new, perhaps they have a greater awareness of what's going on around them, perhaps they don't need as much sleep as they did before. It may be any number of things, and that really depends on your baby and their age and a whole host of other factors. So just to make this really clear, self-soothing or self-regulation, as it's really known, is the ability to get from a really high state of arousal, so being really stressed out. So if you think of a time when you've been very, very stressed or very excited. So imagine that you're going on holiday tomorrow and you're extremely excited and your brain is whirring and you can't stop thinking about it. Or imagine that you're very, very anxious. So imagine that you've got an exam later on today. Imagine that you have got a driving test. Imagine that you're going to the doctors and you're about to find out the results of a test. And all of those things would create a state of arousal, either positive in the case of the holiday or negative in the case of being stressed out or anxious about something. And as an adult, you have the ability to self-regulate. So you're able to get yourself from one of those states to a state of complete calm. Most of the time anyway. So you would use a number of strategies to get yourself from stressed to calm. And some of those strategies might include perhaps taking some deep breaths. You might choose to have a drink of water, you might have a snack, you might ring your mum or your friend, your sister. You might try meditation or mindfulness. Somebody might be kind enough to give you a massage. You might like exercise, so you might go for a run or a walk or a jog. You might just turn some music on really loud or play a musical instrument if you do. I tend to give myself a bit of an internal lecture. I will sort of rationalise things and say, come on, it's not as bad as all that. What's the worst that can happen? And those sorts of things tend to calm adults down. And so when we think about babies, basically there's a big complicated answer about why babies can't calm down, but the short answer is they really can't calm down on their own. And essentially this is because they have an immature brain and they need our help to calm them down. And so the things they tend to look for to calm down are typically things like feeding, whether breastfeeding or bottle feeding. They might need to be rocked or held. They might need you to talk to them in a very calm, soothing voice. Your baby might enjoy being stroked or massaged. Or you might, when all else fails, you might just get in the bath with your baby and have a bath together. But everybody finds the way that helps their baby to calm down. And in general, people don't tend to end up doing something that they never intended to do, such as feeding and rocking their baby to sleep, if they've tried more simple strategies first. So in general, if you need to rock or feed or hold your baby to go to sleep, most people have tried other things first. So I genuinely don't believe that those are mistakes that parents make. I believe that that is just normal. And if you think about what you actually mean to your baby, you are their world. You are the source of love and cuddles. You are comfort. You are your baby's first teacher. Your baby learns about the world through you. Your baby learns how to communicate through you. Your baby learns about attachment and relationship and being sociable through you. And if you're breastfeeding, your baby also associates you with their food, their source of energy. And if you're bottle feeding, then your baby still associates you as the main person that would nurture them and lovingly feed them when they are hungry and ask to be fed. So it's complicated because actually your baby is not just trying to wind you up. Your baby genuinely needs you to calm down. And if we think about that little immature brain, your brain is essentially divided into three main sections. And for the purpose of explaining self-soothing, really we're talking about the downstairs brain. So this is the very basic part of your brain. This is to do with regulating your breathing and your heart rate. It's also associated with your stress response and that ability to get your heart rate up very, very quickly if you need to run for a bus, or if you have a big shock, your heart suddenly starts beating fast and your hands might begin to sweat. And those responses all come from your downstairs brain. And the upstairs part of your brain, this is to do with logical reasoning and problem solving. It's to do with compassion and kindness and thinking about other people before yourself. And this is a more complicated part of the brain. If we think of this part of the brain as a little bit like an electrical fuse box, there is an awful lot of wiring that needs to happen in this part of the brain for it to be fully mature. And you might not be surprised to know that the downstairs part of your brain is fully mature at birth. And that makes sense because you need to be able to regulate your breathing and your heart rate and your temperature control and all those sorts of things from very early on. So that makes sense. But a lot of people think that their upstairs brain is mature and developed well before it actually is. And it might surprise you to know that this part of your brain in most people isn't fully developed until about the age of 25. And again, if you think about it, this makes sense because if you remember back to being a teenager, you can probably remember that actually there were times when you really couldn't calm down by yourself and you needed to go and have a scream and a shout and rant at your mum or your dad or a trusted friend, and somebody else had to help you to calm down. So really isn't that big a surprise. And so essentially, your baby's upstairs brain is really a work in progress. There is a long, long way to go, and it's a little bit like a building site. Okay, so your baby's upstairs brain has got all the raw materials it needs, it's got all of the building supplies and the bricks and the cement, but it needs a builder and it needs those brain cells to be connected up, it needs to be grown and nurtured, and we do this by responding to our babies and loving our babies and providing the right conditions for brain growth. And so the right conditions for brain growth are the hormone oxytocin. And oxytocin, you might remember from when you were giving birth to your baby, this is the hormone that contracts your uterus. It's also the hormone that you release when you fall in love. So that sense of overwhelming love that you had for your baby when they were born, that's oxytocin. And even if you've been in a situation where you've been with a newly engaged couple and you were the third person, you can sense the chemistry in the room in that situation, and that's oxytocin. It's a really tangible hormone, and all humans produce it in greater or lesser quantities. And oxytocin is the hormone that's going to grow your baby's brain from bricks and mortar to a solid structure. It's going to grow your baby into a compassionate, logical, problem-solving human who has the capacity to learn and love and respond to other people. And in contrast, cortisol is the stress hormone, and you need a little bit of the stress hormone in your life because you need to be able to mount a stress response. So if you run into the road and you suddenly realise there's a car coming, you need cortisol and other stress hormones to be able to get your heart rate going so that you can get out of the way of the moving vehicle. So cortisol is important, but too much cortisol can actually cause basically some brain pruning. So this is not a good thing to expose your baby to overly. Now, we're not talking about your baby crying when you're there with them. So if you've got quite a colicky baby and they do spend quite a lot of their day fussing and crying, if you're with your baby and you're holding your baby and responding and you're trying to comfort your baby, that's different because your baby is getting a response from you. So if you think about it, there are times probably when you've been very, very upset and you've needed a hug from somebody. Now the hug might not stop you crying because the thing that upset you is still upsetting, but you'd feel a whole lot worse if you weren't getting that hug. And so it's important to remember that even if your baby is crying and they're not stopping crying when you're hugging them, you're still responding to them in the way that they need for now. So just because your baby doesn't stop crying, it doesn't mean that the hug is pointless. So rest assured that responding to your baby is always the right thing to do. So what are the implications then for self-soothing and the myth that self-soothing is for babies? Well, your baby needs you to calm them down. Your baby is not able to do this all by himself or herself. And leaving her alone to cry won't actually teach her to self-soothe. It will only stop her from crying out and signalling that she needs you. And that's not really a very positive message to give your baby, especially in the early years when that brain is undergoing some massive growth and development. And fundamentally, you will not spoil your baby by responding to them. It's absolutely appropriate to respond to your baby if she signals a need. And your baby will be able to fall asleep, but only if she is sleepy and all of her needs, including her emotional ones, are met and she's calm. So therefore, your goal is to get your baby calm, understand their signs that they're tired, and to be able to calm them gently, not expect her to do that by herself. So if you understand your baby's sleepy signs, you'll be able to help your baby move towards the land of nod. So this is different for all babies. Some babies yawn, some babies rub their eyes or rub their face on your shoulder or your chest. Some babies will fuss or cry. Some babies will just go a little bit pale and look uninterested. And older babies will begin to lose interest in whatever they're playing with and begin to squirm. If you're engaging with your baby and you're having one of those very sweet chats with your baby where they're cooing and eyeing and you're responding and they lose interest, that's generally because they're tired. It's not because they've lost interest in you, they just can't concentrate anymore, they need a break. So if you can understand your baby's sleepy signs and then work to get them calm by doing whatever you need to do to get your baby very, very sleepy, then that's probably the best approach, especially in a young baby. So some tips to help your baby settle down. Try rocking your baby or doing anything that your baby needs in order to feel calm and settled, and put your baby down when they are very, very sleepy or even when they have literally just fallen asleep, and wait and try stroking and shushing or patting, just to try and help your baby adjust. Because if you think about it, falling asleep, being rocked or held, and then waking up in somewhere else, in a basket or a crib, is a little bit like you or I falling asleep in our bed and then in the middle of the night waking up to find that we're on the floor. And so if you found yourself on the floor in the middle of the night, there's no way you'd be able to go back to sleep on the floor. You'd have to get up, get back into bed, punch the pillow, toss and turn maybe for a bit, and then calm down before you're able to go back to sleep again. And so if you can help your baby to get very, very sleepy and then put them down where you want them to go to sleep, where they're safe, then that will usually help your baby to make that adjustment. But they may still need your help to settle down in their crib or their basket or their cot. So don't be surprised if your baby objects to being put in their cot. The thing to do would be to pick them back up again and get them calm, because babies will not be able to calm down on their own. So I hope that's helped you to understand a little bit more about why self-soothing is a myth and how you can help your baby to feel calm and confident and able to settle gently to go to sleep. Thanks for watching.